Hey then guys, so welcome back to the Northeast Updates YouTube channel. We're here with the legend that is Adam P. In case you've been living under a rock, where can people go to find you on socials?
Well, just my name on social media would be easy enough. So just type Adam Pearson onto social media to be able to find me straight away. And of course, I'll be at all Newcastle United matches this season.
Yeah, so we're here every week when we try to do this, try to analyse Newcastle, but also the Premier League as well. In case you haven't seen where we're from, this is the Geordie Star. They do absolutely fantastic drinks. Come here before, after the match, absolutely cracking venue. They've kitted the whole place out Newcastle United style, so definitely come down and check it out. Right, we'll jump into the first video that we're doing. We've got a few videos lined up, but the first one is Premier League predictions. So we're going to look at how it might go. Now, what we'll do is after the transfer window is shut, we'll do a massive one, but we can only do a little bit because things might change. There might be some blockbuster signings or whatever that might still be in the cards. So at the moment, who have you got as the Premier League title winners this season?
Well, I feel like it doesn't matter in terms of signs who someone else brings in. I feel like the race is always between Arsenal and Manchester City. I don't see anyone else joining with them this season. I think the fact that, well, at the time we're recording this, you're going to have Gundogan coming back to Man City. He was an unbelievable player. And if that didn't already convince me enough, well, I just outright think City's going to win it again. Arsenal, I think, will be in there. I like the way Arsenal play. I think especially some of the players have got the all-quality team. There's nobody else, though. Liverpool's not going to win it. Manchester United's not going to win it. It's not going to be Chelsea. It's not going to be us. It's not going to be Tottenham. It's not going to be Villa. There's no one else. So it has to be between Arsenal and Man City. I went City first and Arsenal second just to make a nice little easy answer for you.
Yeah, have you gone, is that a toss-up or is it kind of one definite, a bit more?
Well, I think point-wise, maybe 4 or 5 points in it, but I think City will, especially towards the back end of the season, I feel like they'll just be unstoppable and they're just going to pick teams apart.
Yeah, so I mean, my top two are exactly the same reason. Man City, over the last few years, I just can't see anyone beating them. They just seem a Goliath. I mean, the only thing that I could think of is the fact that they've sold Alvarez. Maybe if they don't strengthen and get another player of that quality in, that might kind of leave them a bit vulnerable if Haaland gets an injury. Other than that, I think they'll walk away with it. I love Arsenal. I love Liverpool. A few other teams I can kind of see coming in. But yeah, for me, it's got to be Man City. So I've got Man City and Arsenal second. So who have you got of the best of the rest after that third place?
It's hard. It is hard, actually. It would have been between Liverpool and Manchester United. I think one of them won't get in the top four. I've got a sneaky feeling one of them won't get in the top four this season. So I don't know which one of the two it's going to be. But I'm more lenient towards Liverpool finishing third or fourth this season. I'm gonna put them in third just to be realistic. I think Liverpool, with the squad they've got, I think they will drop off a little bit. I don't think they'll be anywhere near good enough to win the league. But I feel like in terms of the rest of the teams in the league, I think Liverpool still probably is the best of the bunch. Villa, I think, will drop out this season with Champions League football. I feel like they'll have a similar situation in Newcastle where it's probably a bit too much for them. Again, Man U don't see them in all honesty, despite them having a lot of good players. Chelsea, no. Because despite how much money they spent, I still feel like they've just wasted money more than anything. They bought more in quantity than quality, I feel like. And
the transfer window's still open. They're probably going to sign another 20 players before now at the end of the window.
It is ridiculous. I don't know how they're even allowed to do that because a lot of the players have said they don't have any intention of playing. Even Tosin Adebayo, the one we wanted, signing a free, he's not going to get any of the squad. So it's just stuff like that. I don't know how the hell they're allowed to do that, but they are. But yeah, Liverpool's the best of the bunch. I can't see anyone else. I would have thought finishing above them. But then again, I still think it's an uncertainty with them. With Slot coming in, is he going to be the real deal for them? From the one match I've seen so far, they look decent. A lot of good players are still there. So we'll see how things go. But I would put Liverpool third or fourth.
I've got Liverpool third as well. So we've pretty much got identical so far. But does it not worry you, the new manager coming in? Because that was kind of the reason why I'm giving it a bit of a doubt. Because obviously you're missing a big manager with Klopp. You've got a lot of the players that are in the last year of the contract as well with Van Dijk. You've got Salah and stuff like that who maybe have got one eye away. The transfer window's still open as well. I've seen just when en route here this morning, they're going to try to go for a new keeper, but a kind of youth keeper. They're going to loan him out, someone who did fantastic in the Euros. That to me says that they're not really worried about any of their players leaving this season if a priority is kind of goalkeeper. So is there no doubt in your mind the new manager might come in and there might be a little bit of transition period?
Well, I think especially with someone like Klopp who has been there for 8 years or something like that, it is a long time. So when you get a new manager coming in, it doesn't matter what football team you're on, what kind of quality you got in your players, it is always going to be a big jump for them to make. So with Slot coming in, I can't say I know an awful lot about the guy, to be honest. But from what I can tell, it seems to be a replacement that obviously Liverpool think is going to be a good one for them. It's tricky though, because I thought Klopp did a lot for them. He really did bring out the best in Liverpool. With a guy like him now being fully retired, it's tricky. Listen, I wish the guy all the best. Obviously, he's a Newcastle fan. I kind of want him to fail almost because I don't want Liverpool to do well. But I want to see, this guy get a chance. I think he will get a chance at Liverpool. Half a season, see how things are going with them. If obviously they're not reaching the expectations, he might be gone before the end of the season. But the reality is, it's probably going to be a couple of potential down periods for Liverpool. But even then, despite it being a down period, I'm still backing them well and truly to get in the top four. I still feel like they are a step ahead of everyone else, but maybe that could change next season.
Yeah, like I say, I've got them third. I rate the manager. I think if Klopp's kind of given them the green light, I think one of the things that really interested me at half time, the first game, obviously all we've got is one game to base it on. He made a defensive change at half time, very decisive sort of thing. I think that's a sign of a good manager. Rather than kind of letting things go, I think that's a good sign. So I'm happy putting him third. Fourth is the one that's very much open for interpretation. This could be about 4 or 5 different teams. Who have you gone for that?
Well, I'm going to do it.
Back in the tune?
I'll back us to get top 5 this season, but whether that's 4th or 5th is a different question. I actually think if England, of course, actually get the additional Champions League spot, I reckon we'll get it this season. I feel like we have to, in all honesty. I feel like expectations are going to be quite high in Eddie Howe because he hasn't really got the excuse anymore. Obviously, Tonali's coming back. We haven't got extra games to play. We're playing just Premier League matches and domestic competition, so our full focus is on the league and on cup competition. So
got no injuries as well. Yeah. That was a big problem last season. Blank slate this season.
We'll still have a few, unfortunately, that have tinkered in from last season. Of course, I think the bottom and the south are the 2 big ones, especially when we have missed out potentially being gay in. So that's going to be an issue that we need to sort out in the window. But we've got to push for it. As I said before, we're only focusing on English football. We've got to try and go for these cups or try and do well in the league. I feel like we have to. I think it's a big season for Howe. I think especially with the PAF owning more the football club now. Amanda and Murdoch have both gone, who were, of course, massive advocates for Eddie Howe. They were the ones that made sure when the interviews happened to managers, they were there. They were the ones that actually brought Eddie Howe in. They would have been the ones that would have been defending him in tough periods while he's been at Newcastle. So I feel like with those 2 gone, it is going to put pressure on Eddie. And he came out at the start of the season when he was over in Germany in the training camp, and he said, well, I need full reassurance from this football club that I'll have the full back in this season. I can go and do what I want with Newcastle. So it's going to be a tricky one for him. I feel like if Newcastle don't do well, I think he might be gone next season, which is a big claim to make, but I don't think the player will mess around. So it's important for us. I think we do need to reach at least top 6. I put us in 4th though. A little ambitious, but again, I think a lot of the competitions are going to be a bit hindered this season by European football. Despite their massive squad, I think Chelsea being in the Conference League is not going to do them any favours. Villa, I think, is the big one because I think especially with them being in the Champions League, it's going to definitely take some of their attention away like it did us last season. Man U, I think, will be the other team that will finish 4/5, depending on how the 2 do this season. I think it'll be a battle between us 2 again. Tottenham, I still think, are a little bit off. I'm not keen on Tottenham for some reason. I don't know what it is with them, but I'm still not keen on them.
1-1 with Leicester?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a great start for them, is it? No, it's just a thing with Tottenham. And I think especially when it comes towards playing the big 6, or including us in that as well. I think when they go away at these big matches, they just don't tend to pick the results in those games. Tottenham, I think they're going to be, those sort of matches are going to be the main factor for them, whether they can actually beat the likes of Arsenal, Man City, Man United, or us, Chelsea. They've got to be able to beat these teams that are going to be around them in the tier, and I think that will heavily depend on where they'll finish. But I'm going to be optimistic. I'll put Newcastle in 4th and have Man U just below us.
Right, I've gone Spurs. As it stands at the moment, I would love to say Newcastle, and I think maybe if we did sign a couple more players or get Gahey in, that would probably be the missing piece of the puzzle that I think would get us to 4th. As it stands at the moment, the video's done at the moment, I'm going to say Spurs or Pipwa. But I just had to put that little caveat in. So Spurs have been really impressive. I think Maddison, it's very easy to look good probably against a newly promoted team, but Maddison looked very good at the start of the week, and I know he had a terrible season last season. I think if they can get him performing, they've got Son now back in his natural position. They've got Solanke. I don't know why they signed Solanke in truth. I mean, Tony was available. I think he's a better striker. I think they overpaid for Solanke, but that's a different story. I fancy them to have a good season. He's always good in his second season, the manager. So I kind of think they might pip everyone and be the best of the rest. Then I've gone for Newcastle fifth. But like I say, if we sign Gay here, if we sign some really good right winger, if we sign a good centre back, we'll touch on that in the next video in the Newcastle transfer special. I think that could be enough to pip it. But I think fifth, it'll still qualify for me. It's been a really good season. I don't think there'll be pressure on Eddie Howe after securing fifth. I think a lot of the big players, including Bruno, Isak, and stuff like that, will probably be all right to stay around if we get Europe. That'll see that as progression, but it wouldn't surprise me if we did get fourth. So I've gone Spurs, Newcastle, and then for sixth place, I've gone for Man U as well. So kind of like what you hinted at there, I'm expecting them to have a good season this season. I don't think they'll have the nightmare they had last season. They kind of had a similar season to us with bad injuries. I think they've got the players back. They've made some very good signings, in fairness. They've got a lot to offload. They've got Sancho and stuff like that, which is big money moves, so they'll have even more money coming in. I kind of like the signings that they're fetching in under the new ownership as well. So really impressed with them. I can see them having a good season. And that whole fourth to sixth, it wouldn't surprise me if it was anywhere around in truth. Like you said, Chelsea isn't in my top six though as well. So what have you got for the rest?
For the rest, well,
So you got Newcastle fourth, and then where's your fifth and sixth?
I think I said Man U fifth, which I'm going to stick with. Then it'll have to be Tottenham. Oh, then again, you can't really put Villa as far down as like eighth, can you? So it's tricky, isn't it? It is quite tricky. I still think Chelsea's the worst of the lot. I had to agree.
Do you not see, just touching on Chelsea, do you not see a kind of it clicking for them sort of thing? I mean, they've got a new manager in, they've got a class team on paper. They've got two class teams on paper. Is there not any chance that it might click a couple of games in and then they rock it?
No, but they don't learn though. They do. I mean, if they're spent on quality rather than quantity, they'll be unbelievable because they've got so many players that on the PSR, they sell a bunch of those players every window. I mean, they're selling 9, 10, 11 players. They have so much money which they're allowed to spend, which is why I think PSR is a load of rubbish because with PSR, it has to be in a level playing field where Chelsea's like up here and everyone else is down here because they've got that many players that they can sell on. So it's not particularly fair the rest of the team, but Chelsea just aren't a well-run club. They just aren't. They just spend. They don't think about how can we actually make a quality team because if they really took half of those players out and they've actually bought like 4 or 5 top-level quality players that are actually going to come in and 100% start for you, then Chelsea look unbelievable. But they've got about, what, 8 goalkeepers. Kepa must be some choice. What the hell is Kepa these days? And bear in mind, he was a world record transfer fee when they brought him in. So you've got to look at these players and look at where Chelsea went wrong, and it's all been a business point of view. I know managers, some of them have underperformed, but most of them are out in one season because it's an impossible job. They've got impossible expectations, but they are expected to win the Premier League, expected when they were in the Champions League to win it every season. It's just not possible, and they haven't spent well. So my problem with Chelsea is that, yes, they're bringing about 15 players, but what's the point when the 15 players aren't even going to play for them because they've got that many that are just going to be sitting in the club. So
they're on big wages as well. It's
one
one thing
stupid,
saying there's 40 people, but it's the
stupid.
wages that they've got. I can't comprehend their wage bill.
I don't understand it. I honestly don't. Again, as I said before, if you've just bought 4 or 5 quality players that are going to start for you, Chelsea will be well and truly up there, but you just don't do that. It just baffles me, to be honest. I still think they're the worst of the lot. I just don't think they'll click. I think there's that many players. I don't know how the hell they're going to keep their dressing room happy. I just don't think you will. So, in my personal opinion, they'll be the bottom of the 8 or 9 teams I've got there, which is still mad when you think about it because they've got the most expensive club by far of any team there.
Yeah, I mean, with Chelsea, I want to kind of touch on them a little bit more detail because you've said they've got an overinflated squad. Everyone knows that. So there's going to be a lot of loan and transfers in the next few days all the way up until the window. I want to see your thoughts when we do the transfer video, any of them that might be of interest for Newcastle. But for now, bottom 3. Is this the 3 teams that have gone up? Is this an easy one, or do you see anyone getting sucked in? Obviously, you've got Leicester, who have got a potential ban over their head with points. Do you see any other teams that could get sucked in?
Well, the ban's going to be a big factor for Leicester. I think a lot of people got them in the bottom 3, assuming that the ban goes through, which I think we'll probably have to be likely to assume that I'm more lenient to say that it is going to happen because of how we've seen the other teams, especially those lower teams, get punished. I've got Southampton to go down every single day of the week. I know it's easy to say after watching them against us, but they are woeful in front of goal. They lack real quality when they're going forward. They really should have punished Newcastle, they didn't. And I wouldn't say we were fortunate to win because I thought we grafted our backsides off to get the win. But the reality is, I think Southampton, when they play football, they seem to be all right, but the quality is poor in front of goal. I think that's going to be a big factor for them. So I have got them to go down.
Well, they did go up through the playoff final as well. So technically, they are the weakest team, you would say, on paper for that. They have done a couple of signings. That Cameron Archer, they got Diaz, who obviously is Panto villain of the week right now. Every single pundit hates him, thinks he's a diver and everything like that. Are they rock bottom for you then?
It's tricky to say that because I think Ipswich Town are going to be there, and I don't know which one I put bottom. I think I'm actually I'm going to do that. I think Southampton will finish bottom. I actually think they'll be the worst team in the league, and we'll see whether in a few months' time if I'm chatting that to rubbish or not. But again, I don't rate Southampton much. I think Ipswich will have a bit of that first season wonder almost where they'll kick on for a few games, but the reality is I think it'll be a little similar to Luton last season where they'll win a few big matches. I think they'll perform well in a few big games, but the reality is Ipswich is a team that you would have ever expected to get in the Premier League. Have done unbelievably well for themselves to get promoted into second, but they're not great. They're not great. So yeah, for me, I think they will be 19th. I want to see which one you picked first before I see my last one.
So I've got Southampton bottom. I wasn't kind of a bit like you. I thought they were a little bit toothless at the weekend. I think if you go down to 10 men that early in a match, you are the favourites to go on and try to overcome that. They didn't have the danger factor. They've got a lot. I mean, in fairness to them, there was a couple of chances they had. They did have one cleared off the line and a few others. But for me, man for man, their team, it doesn't fill us with much confidence. If there's no transfer bans, if there's no point deductions and stuff like that, I would put Southampton bottom. I would probably then put Ipswich in 19th. I think kind of like you, I see a lot of similarities between them and Luton. But for me, it's quality at the end of the day. I think the gulf between the Premier League teams, the established Premier League teams, and the teams that come up now is just absolutely gigantic. I think it's just getting bigger and bigger season on season. The only other teams I could think that might be getting dragged in is you look at Everton. I know they've just getting rid of Onana, another one of their star players. It reminds me a little bit of Southampton back in the day when they would always sell a star player and expect to stay up, and then sell a star player and expect to stay up. It can only do that for so long. I think Everton could get dropped into it maybe, and then Nottingham Forest. But again, that Chris Wood, ex-Newcastle player, scored again at the weekend. I think as long as you score on goals, that'll be enough to keep you up, and they seem like they're all right scoring goals. So for me, that's the way I've got it. So who have you got as your last relegation slot?
Well, I think it's going to be whichever team picks up a points deduction, to be honest, as you look at Everton, Forest and Leicester. Although I thought everyone's going to have one of those three in the bottom three, I don't really see anyone else that can go down there. I think Bournemouth, Solanke will probably drop down a bit. I don't think they'll do as well as people expect. But I think it's going to be Leicester. I think it's going to be all three of the newly promoted teams again, which is mad when you think about it, because you would have thought Leicester and Southampton are two teams that actual well-registered Premier League squads. But the reality is, you're right, there's too much of a go from the Premier League and the Championship now. Again, I think it's an impossible job for any team, really, when they come up to realistically stay. I think Forest are lucky. I think Everton's lucky because of the fact that there are always going to be worse teams than them. So as long as they don't do shockingly bad, which I don't think they will, then I can't see anyone else that's going to go down over the nose three.
Well, they didn't even go down last season with a point deduction, so that just shows you the gulf as well. So yeah, I've got Leicester in the last one. Very easy decision. I can see a point deduction coming. I think they've lost one of the star players as well, that Dewsbury Hall. They had to get rid of him due to financial fair play. Even if they supplied Jamie Vardy with a load of Red Bull all season, I still don't think it's going to be enough to keep them up. I think the gulf is a little bit too much. They did impress us a little bit against Tottenham. I think they might be all right scoring goals, but out of the other teams, when you look at Wolves, who I think might get dragged into it, who you didn't mention, I think when they've lost Neto as well, I did fancy them to struggle last season. They kind of overachieved, and then they sold the star player this season. But again, them, Everton, Nottingham Forest, I just think there's so much of a gap. So the next one, possibly an even easier question than the bottom three. Who have you got as your top scorer this season?
Well, I don't think we need to discuss it though. It's going to be Haaland. To be fair, if it's like to stay fit all season long, I think he could probably, I would say probably, I think he will challenge Haaland. But he's just too good, isn't he? You're going to have back Haaland. He's got ridiculous stats for Man City.
Yeah, it's not worth talking about. I mean, the only thing that could stop him is an injury, really. If he stays fit for 30 of the games, I think he'll definitely walk away with it. If he does get injured, do you think Isak will be the Golden Boot winner? Would he be second for you?
Him, Watkins, there's a couple in there, I would have thought so, but I think it's like you would bank more than anyone else. Watkins, again, has more games played this season. Other than that, there's not many strikers in the Premier League I would back anymore, really, because I think there's 3 or 4 that are better than all the rest. You've got to think about it. Solanke is Tottenham's best striker. Chelsea's haven't really got a proper one. Have the Man U, no, I wouldn't back Hoyland, anyone like that. Yeah, it had to be a Saga Watkins one. It had to back one of those two.
Yeah, and then next we've got overachiever. So what club do you think, for on paper, that they will overachieve this season?
Ooh, it's a tricky one actually. For me, it depends what you define as overachiever, because I think if a team let's say for example, Newcastle finished fourth, would that be overachieving in some people's eyes? I don't think it is personally, but it depends what you define as that. I would say if any mid-table team manages to somehow squeeze their way into the top half, I think let's say Palace, for example, would get like 9th or 10th from the table, and I'll probably class that as a little bit overachieving, but it's a bit of a boring answer, isn't it? So, based on what I said, I mean, I don't think it is, but Man U finishing in the top 4, I guess, because I still don't rate them that much. I think especially some of the other teams in the league, I don't think they are one of the best teams in the league still. So I guess that, but I think the Premier League table will be quite predictable this season. So to say an overachiever, I think it's hard to find one. I think it's quite a predictable league.
It's very hard, and this is the one I probably struggle with most. I went for Brighton though. I know they're not in Europe this season. They've got a good underbelly of players. They've got a good manager. I think not having that European distraction, because like you said about Newcastle and Aston Villa, when you go into Champions League or Europe, you're probably going to cost yourself about 5-6 points in the league, something like that. So without that distraction, I think the strikers will click. They've got that Evan Ferguson, who I thought was fantastic. I'm still waiting for him to break out. He had a fantastic start, and then he's just fallen off the pace of it. Obviously, they've got the young lad from us as well. So I went for Brighton for the overachiever. So underachievers.
Has to be Chelsea, hasn't it? They've spent all that money. They've spent more money than Man City, and they're nowhere near as good as Man City. So I think no matter what, I think absolutely everyone could say now Chelsea's going to underachieve from their expectation anyway, because in their eyes, they'll be looking to try and win the league, which obviously not going to do. So straight away, I think Chelsea's the new achiever.
Yeah, I went underachievers. I went kind of touched on it before, either Everton or Wolves. Both have sold their star players and kind of expecting the same sort of thing. I think they'll both be around the 15th to 16th mark this season. Not maybe get sucked into it, but I think, again, you can't sell your best players and expect a similar performance or higher than last season. So for me, it's one of them two. And then next, we've got the player to watch this season. So I'll jump in first and give you a little bit of thinking time for this. So I've went for Minty as well. Possibly a bit selfish because I am very curious to see what he's done. He's had a fantastic preseason. He's had goals. He's had assists. He's looked dangerous. It's going to be one of these things where my eyes are glued to them this season. Don't really want him to do well selfishly, because you think, what have we let go? Especially when we had Almiron and the rest that maybe we could have sold ahead of him. Got a fantastic price for him, in fairness, but it's always going to be a case of looking at him, however the trajectory of his career goes, and think that could have been in a Newcastle shirt. So who would you have as your player to watch this season?
Well, I would have picked Minter as well, to be fair. I think that's a good choice. You make me depressed saying that we've kept all these players now instead of him. But now, he's going to do well, and you can just tell this kid's going to do well. For me, I'll probably stick with a Brighton player, someone like Evan Ferguson, for example, as you just said. A lot of the Brighton players are quite interesting to watch, because you know that a lot of them are going to turn up and play well for them. So yeah, I would say one of the attacking Brighton players. I think a lot of them are quite exciting to watch. So I'll be a bit bold when I stick to a Brighton player, and I'll go with Evan Ferguson, because he destroyed us last season when we played him.
Yeah, and he's one of them players which was on the elite list of scoring a hat-trick in the Premier League as well, especially at his age. Absolutely fantastic. Right, so there we go then. Stay tuned for the rest of the videos. We've got the Newcastle transfer special coming up. We're going to preview Bournemouth match and a few other videos. So make sure you like, follow, subscribe, and check out Adam's channels as well.
Cheers.